Breaking news from around the world. Tonight, the glittering lights of Atlanta's nightlife have been shattered by a scandal so shocking, it's left fans breathless. Tiny, the beloved queen who has inspired millions, has just been arrested. And the reason will break your heart. A disturbing clip surfaced online showing a violent confrontation with Shekinah, captured raw and unfiltered. Within minutes, the video went viral, spreading across social media like wildfire. Hashtags like Tiny arrested and why Shekinah attack began trending worldwide as millions watched in disbelief. When Tiny stepped out of her sleek black SUV, she tried to hold herself together, but the flashing cameras caught everything. Every tremor of fear, every tear, every emotion she couldn't hide. Fans who had adored her for years now stared at their screens in horror, wondering how someone so beloved could end up at the center of such a nightmare. The nightclub, once alive with music, laughter, and celebration, has turned into a storm of chaos, fear, and betrayal. Reporters shouted questions, security struggled to control the crowd, and authorities moved in as the viral footage dictated the narrative. Online, heartbreak spread like a tidal wave. Some defended her, others condemned her. Many pleaded for the truth. The tension, confusion, and despair unfolded in real time, leaving hearts breaking around the world. Families, fans, and celebrities were glued to every update, watching tragedy unfold second by second. Was this a setup, a misunderstanding, or the raw truth exposed for all to see? Tonight, Tiny's life has become the epicenter of global outrage, sorrow, and disbelief. This is not just news, it's heartbreak in motion. A star brought to her knees. The world watches, crying and asking, can justice ever truly be served? Or has this story already shattered everything we believed about fame, trust, and loyalty? Atlanta's night was supposed to be filled with glitter, music, and laughter, but instead the city's heart was ripped apart by a story no one could have imagined. Tiny, the woman who inspired millions, now stands at the center of a storm no spotlight could protect her from. Earlier that evening, a shocking video captured a violent confrontation with Shekinah, an incident no one expected to see. And now, the entire world is watching, glued to their screens, hearts racing and minds spinning in disbelief. Within moments, the footage spread across every corner of the internet. Hashtags like Tiny arrested and Shekinah attack dominated social feeds as millions tried to piece together what really happened. When Tiny emerged from her SUV once again, her gown shimmered under the neon lights. But the sparkle couldn't hide the trembling in her hands or the tear that slipped free despite her best efforts to stay composed. Paparazzi cameras flashed relentlessly, capturing every silent sob, every flicker of fear. Fans who once saw her as a symbol of strength now witnessed her vulnerability in its rawest, most devastating form. This is not just a celebrity scandal. It's a moment that has shaken the world, a story unfolding in real time, reminding us how quickly admiration can turn to heartbreak. And as the city of Atlanta tries to catch its breath, one haunting question remains. What really happened that night? It was a moment that exposed just how fragile human emotion can be. A heartbreak broadcast to the world in real time. Inside the nightclub, whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs into shouts. Security scrambled to contain the chaos as fans and reporters pressed closer, desperate for answers. "What happened?" they shouted. "Is she okay?" But no one had clarity. The viral footage had already taken control, shaping the story before anyone could speak. It painted a picture that felt both tragic and terrifying. And when the authorities arrived, the reality of Tiny's situation became painfully clear. She was being escorted away in handcuffs, her face a haunting mix of shock, despair, and disbelief. Every step she took away from the nightclub was a step deeper into a public nightmare, one that would leave scars far beyond the bright lights of fame. Online, the world erupted. Fans flooded timelines with reactions of horror, grief, and anger. Memes, clips, and heated debates took over social media, dividing communities between those who defended her and those who condemned her actions. The emotional intensity was unbearable. Families sat glued to their screens, hearts clenching as they imagined themselves in her place. How could someone so adored be reduced to such a moment of helplessness and shame? What kind of world allows a star, a mother, a friend, to be dragged through the public eye in such a merciless way? As the limousine doors closed behind her, the silence that followed was deafening. Every viewer, every fan, Every celebrity watching from afar felt the weight of the moment pressing down. The questions multiplied. Was this a setup? Was the footage manipulated to destroy her? Or was it the raw, unfiltered truth that no one was ready to face? Even as whispers of conspiracy spread, one fact remained undeniable. Tiny's life had been irrevocably changed. Tonight, the heartbreak reached beyond the screens. Parents hugged their children a little tighter. Fans cried openly in their homes. Even the city of Atlanta seemed to mourn. The once glittering skyline no longer sparkled. Its lights flickered weakly against a sky heavy with sorrow. Tiny, once a symbol of strength and resilience, had now become a symbol of vulnerability. Proof that fame and fortune can't shield anyone from pain. And yet, in this moment of despair, the world couldn't look away. The footage, the tears, the trembling hands, the stunned expression, every frame demanded attention. The tragedy was palpable, searing itself into the hearts of millions. It was a story that would be dissected endlessly, debated passionately, and remembered painfully. A night that began with music and glamour had ended in chaos, tears, and questions that may never be answered. This was more than a scandal. It was an emotional earthquake, a public unmasking of pain, a reminder that even the brightest stars can be brought to their knees. And as Tiny disappeared into the waiting hands of the authorities, one undeniable truth hung heavy in the air. The world would never see her the same way again. The world would never forget tonight. The images, the sorrow, the heartbreak, they were burned into memory. A viral tragedy that shook not only Atlanta but millions across the globe. The city was still reeling from the footage that had taken the world by storm. Tiny, once a symbol of grace and strength, had been escorted into custody. Her face now appeared everywhere, on every screen, every feed, every headline. Yet the story was far from over. Inside the police station, the weight of the night's events hung heavy in the air. Every knock on the door, every whisper from the hall seemed magnified, as if the entire world outside was holding its breath, waiting for the next heartbreak. Officers moved quietly, staff avoided eye contact, and Tiny sat motionless, her hands folded tightly, her thoughts miles away. Back on social media, the reaction was overwhelming. Millions had seen the shocking video, and the emotional response was immediate and relentless. Timelines flooded with despair, sympathy, and outrage. Memes, tributes, and angry posts spread across every platform. Hashtags like Bring Back Tiny and Justice for Shekinah trended side by side, symbolizing the divided chaos that had consumed the internet. Every like, comment, and share fueled the fire, turning a personal tragedy into a global spectacle. People couldn't stop asking, how did a night meant to celebrate glamour turn into a nightmare so raw, so public, and so impossible to understand? Meanwhile, inside the nightclub where it all began, chaos lingered like a haunting ghost. Tables stood overturned. Champagne bottles lay shattered across the floor. The flashing lights, now dim and erratic, illuminated the silence that followed the storm. Staff members, many of whom had witnessed the altercation firsthand, were still shaken. Some cried openly. Others could barely find the words to describe what they'd seen. And every image captured by cameras told a story louder than any statement could, a story of shock, disbelief, and sorrow. The air that once buzzed with excitement was now thick with trauma, a heavy realization that everything had changed in an instant. As news outlets scrambled to get statements, the narrative grew more intense. Analysts debated motives. Insiders whispered secrets. Fans dissected every frame of the viral video, searching for clues. Some swore it was a setup, a calculated move to destroy reputations. Others insisted it revealed a truth that had been hidden for too long, a private pain that had finally spilled into public view. Through it all, one thing remained undeniable: Tiny's vulnerability. Her tears, her trembling voice, the way she lowered her gaze to avoid the blinding flashes of cameras. It all formed a heartbreaking portrait, a visual symphony of despair that left even the harshest critics shaken. Families sat together at home, watching the coverage in silence. Parents whispered to their children about the fragility of fame, the dangers of judgment, and the cruelty that can hide behind glamour. Fans wept openly, feeling as though a piece of their own hearts had been pulled into the storm. The tragedy had grown beyond one woman's fall from grace. It had become a mirror reflecting the world's hunger for drama, pain, and spectacle. And as Atlanta's skyline dimmed under the weight of sorrow, one truth echoed across every screen, every home, every heart. Some nights change everything, and the world never looks the same again. The emotional intensity of the night was so overwhelming that many reported crying for hours, unable to escape the tragedy unfolding before their eyes. Even the streets outside the police station mirrored the chaos within. Flashing red and blue lights painted the sidewalks as concerned citizens, reporters, and fans gathered, murmuring questions they feared might never be answered. "What really happened?" they cried. "Is she safe?" But the answers remained elusive, swallowed by the sheer magnitude of the viral storm. As Tiny was processed, cameras captured moments that would become iconic in their heartbreak. Her trembling hands, unsteady steps, and distant gaze that seemed to carry the weight of 1,000 silent screams. Every movement, every tear became another frame in a story too raw to ignore. As the night stretched on, speculation only intensified. Was Shekinah truly hurt? Was the footage manipulated? Were unseen forces working behind the scenes to amplify the scandal? Conspiracy theories flooded social media, adding new layers of tension and uncertainty to an already explosive situation. And yet, beneath the confusion and chaos, one truth remained undeniable. The pain was real. Tiny's anguish, her humanity, her vulnerability, broadcast for the world to see, reminded everyone that behind every headline and viral clip lies a real person, suffering, trembling, and broken. Tonight, Atlanta wasn't just witnessing a scandal, it was living through a collective heartbreak, a viral tragedy that transcended fame and celebrity. The images, the sounds, the tears became a mirror reflecting the raw, unfiltered consequences of a world addicted to spectacle. Millions would remember this night, not for the glitter or the glamour, but for the heartbreak, the despair, and the emotional weight of watching someone they admired crumble under pressure. As Tiny sat behind the cold walls of custody, the world continued to watch, to share, to mourn. This wasn't just news. It was a lesson in vulnerability, fame, and the devastating cost of living life in the relentless spotlight. But the tragedy was far from over. The heartbreak was far from healed. The story, viral, painful, and unforgettable, was only beginning to unfold. By early dawn, Atlanta still refused to rest. The city's streets pulsed with unease, as if its very soul had been shaken by what it had witnessed. Inside the holding cell, Tiny sat alone. Her hands trembled, tears streaked her face, and the weight of humiliation, fear, and heartbreak pressed down on her like 1,000 invisible hands. A night that began in celebration had become a haunting symbol of the price of fame. And as the sun rose over Atlanta, it illuminated a truth too heavy to forget. Even the strongest hearts can break under the world's gaze. Every sound outside, the murmurs of the crowd, the flash of cameras, the blare of sirens, echoed in Tiny's mind. A haunting reminder that the world was watching every second of her downfall. Outside the nightclub, the scene had turned into a frozen moment in time. Shattered champagne bottles glimmered under the harsh neon light. Overturned tables stood like monuments to panic. The staff, pale and shaken, whispered in hushed tones, their voices trembling with disbelief. The viral footage had captured everything, every movement, every tear, every fleeting expression of fear, and now it was impossible to escape. Millions of eyes were glued to their screens, living the tragedy as if it were their own. Social media became a stage of raw emotion. Fans flooded timelines with heartbreak and disbelief. Some defended Tiny fiercely, insisting the world had misunderstood what really happened. Others condemned her, their anger sharp and bitter, as if betrayal had struck them personally. Memes, reaction videos, and endless commentary exploded across platforms. Yet beneath the spectacle, a deeper sorrow lingered. The world was not just watching entertainment, it was watching a human being crumble beneath unbearable pressure. Conspiracy theories quickly followed. Was this an orchestrated effort to destroy Tiny's reputation? Was Shekinah's involvement more complex than anyone realized? Was the viral footage edited to fuel outrage and chaos? As debates raged online, the truth grew murkier, lost beneath a storm of speculation. But one thing remained painfully clear: Tiny's humanity. Her trembling hands, her downcast eyes, and the quiet sobs that no camera could fully capture told a story far more powerful than any rumor. It was the story of a woman laid bare before the world, vulnerable, broken, and utterly human. Even fellow celebrities and insiders began to speak out, sharing their own fears about the ruthless nature of social media and the unforgiving spotlight of fame. Their words echoed through the digital noise, amplifying the tragedy into a viral chorus of sorrow, anger, and disbelief. Viewers across the globe felt the pain as though it were their own. In living rooms, people cried quietly. On phones, prayers were whispered. Families sat in silence, questioning how someone could be reduced to this state, despite having fame, success, and everything the world claimed to admire. Yet the real horror wasn't just in the footage, it was in the ripple effect, the way it shook people's faith in compassion, privacy, and truth itself. Families began to question how safe anyone really was under the microscope of public judgment. Fans wondered whether fame was a blessing or a slow, merciless curse. And as dawn broke over Atlanta, the city itself seemed to hold its breath, suspended between sorrow and disbelief, waiting for answers that might never come. This was not merely a scandal. It was an emotional earthquake, one that shook the very foundations of trust, loyalty, and compassion in the public eye. Every second of Tiny's ordeal broadcasted a painful truth: how fragile life becomes under the spotlight, how quickly admiration turns into judgment, and how unbearably lonely public pain can be. As dawn broke, Tiny was led from the station. Her steps were hesitant, her gaze distant. Flashbulbs erupted, each burst freezing her pain in time. Images of vulnerability, heartbreak, and raw humanity that would be etched into collective memory forever. Whispers of betrayal, setup, and hidden agendas filled the air. But none of it could overshadow the emotional reality before everyone's eyes. Tiny wasn't just a headline. She was human, exposed, trembling, broken. The world watched with aching hearts as one of Atlanta's most beloved figures became the face of a viral tragedy that no one could look away from. Questions hung in the heavy morning air. Could trust ever be restored? Could dignity survive the merciless glare of public scrutiny? Or had this night already shattered everything that once mattered? This wasn't just news anymore. It was a collective heartbreak. A star brought low, a city left trembling, and millions across the globe united by sorrow. As the day unfolded, timelines overflowed with hashtags, reactions, and live streams. Voices from every corner of the world joined in, some crying for justice, others for mercy. Yet beneath the noise, one undeniable truth emerged. Tiny's ordeal revealed the merciless side of the digital age, the cruelty that hides behind the glamour, the speed with which empathy fades, and the devastating emotional cost of fame in a viral world. The story was far from over. But this chapter, this climax of heartbreak, exposure, and vulnerability, would remain etched in the hearts of all who witnessed it. The world had seen everything that night: the chaos, the tears, the shattering of illusions. Tiny, once a symbol of resilience and grace, now stood at the center of a storm that had no mercy. Yet even in her brokenness, her story carried power, a reminder that no one, not even those adored by millions, is safe from the weight of judgment and the hunger of a world that never looks away. And as the cameras rolled on and the internet continued to buzz, one message echoed above the noise: your voice, your reaction, your compassion still matter. Every share, every word, every moment of reflection can keep the truth alive, not for spectacle, but for understanding. Because tonight, the world didn't just watch a fall from grace, it felt it. Together. And while the cameras stopped flashing and the chaos faded into uneasy silence, the footage continued to circulate, endlessly, relentlessly, across every corner of the internet. Yet the questions remain, echoing through every feed and comment section. What really happened behind the scenes? Who can be trusted? Who orchestrated this viral tragedy that shattered lives and captivated millions? Now, it's up to us, the audience, to witness, to question, and to demand the truth. Because this isn't just gossip. It's a mirror reflecting the price of fame, the weight of exposure, and the unbearable vulnerability of living under a spotlight that never blinks. Every second you spend watching, sharing, or reacting adds to the unfolding narrative. Every comment becomes a ripple in the sea of global emotion. Every tear, every moment of empathy becomes part of this living story. So don't scroll past. Don't let the pain fade into the noise of the next headline. Remember the tragedy. Feel the heartbreak. See the human being beneath the chaos. Comment your thoughts. Share the story. Because this isn't over, not by a long shot. The saga of Tiny, Shekinah, and the shocking footage continues to evolve, unraveling truths and exposing wounds that go deeper than anyone imagined. The world is still watching, hearts are still breaking, and this viral-level scandal is far from its final act.
Stay with us, because the next chapter of this emotional storm is coming, and you won't want to miss a single moment.